Ciao, ciao, benvenuto a tutti. Buonasera a tutti. I'm Anthony Manta. I'm the Associate Director of the Nanovic Institute for European Studies here at Notre Dame. In order to keep pace with what's happening in Europe every other semester, the Institute, for its film series, just chooses, the Institute chooses the best of recent European film. So this is one such semester, this is one such series. And thanks to the input of our Notre Dame European Film Brain Trust, we have a very interesting lineup this semester for you. So I also want to thank Ted Barron, who's the long title, the sort of senior director here at the Browning Cinema and at the DPAC. I want to thank all of the faculty who have been involved in the selections of these films. The films that we're going to show this year start, of course, tonight with Le Quattro Volte, which is a near-silent film, which is going to immerse you in Calabria. Next, we're going to show Le Havre, which was made by a Finnish filmmaker named Aki Kaurismäki, which is a very wonderful deadpan comedy about immigration and hospitality. After that, we'll have Melancholia, which is getting a lot of press these days, by Lars von Trier. Two luminous films by a German director named Hans Steinbichler, who will be here later this semester. One of them will be a near premiere in the US. He's going to show it just a few days before he comes here, in New York, I think. And a powerful new rollicking Balkan war setting of Coriolanus, the film by Shakespeare, by Ralph Fiennes, otherwise known to your students as Voldemort, to whom we've issued an invitation. So we've got an invitation on his desk. We know that his personal assistant has read it, but we're just waiting to hear whether he will actually come. I should also note that we're also supporting a collection of Italian films that's going to accompany the upcoming visit of Robert Gordon, a wonderful Italianist from Gonville and Caius College in Cambridge. And note that all of these films, as well as the Irish film series from our friends at the Keogh Naughton Institute, the Screen Piece series, which is going to feature a film by one of our faculty fellows, Olivier Moral. And I should mention that the TED has programmed afternoon screenings in early February of film pioneer Georges Méliès, the new one by Pedro Almodovar, which you see on the banner outside. In short, a lot of things that are European in nature that we're simply glad to be part of. And here to tell you about tonight's feature is John Welle, Professor of Italian and concurrent Professor of Film, Television, and Theater at Notre Dame. He's a specialist in modern Italian literature and culture, and his interests include 20th century poetry and translation, early and silent cinema, much of which has to do with scientific cinema, which this film intersects in interesting ways with, film and literary interactions, and popular culture and media. So this is an unusual film, which John will tell you about, but I'm very pleased to introduce him. He's the best person to do it. John Welle.
Thank you very much, Anthony. It's a pleasure and an honor to be with you this evening, and as Anthony said, this is a very special film, and it's an unusual film, and so I hope to kind of set the tone that will help everyone enjoy the film. And I'm going to be just a brief introduction. I'm going to say a little bit about the filmmaker and the scriptwriter, and then a few observations on the film, many of which are gleaned from the internet, and then a few ideas about what I hope will be suggestive about a way to open up this film and maybe make it accessible. Michelangelo Frammartino was born in Milan in 1968. He studied architecture at the Milan Polytechnic School. In 1995, he exhibited his first video installation work called Presenze Esse Connesse, and the interactive installation Ora at the Milan Civic Film School, from which he graduated in 1997 with the film L'Occhio e lo Spirito. The same year, he was one of the young directors selected to participate in the production project Le Mani sulla Città. In 1998, the interactive installation Film, a tribute to the cinematic work of Samuel Beckett, was shown at the Triennale in Milan. In 1999, he co-directed the 35-minute film Bibim with Kafi Mohammed and realized his film Scappa Valentina. In 2002, he won the 152nd competition for short films made with a cell phone at the Bellaria Festival with Io Non Posso Entrare. There's an interview with him on YouTube about this film and also about the Bellaria Film Festival. That year he also shot his first feature film, Il Dono, that won several awards in some of the world's most important film festivals. A selection from that film is also available on YouTube. Since 2005, he teaches film language and technique at, among other institutions, the Civic Film School and the Bergamo University. So the film we're going to see tonight is his second film, and it has been very widely received. It's also an unusual film and a kind of special film, so reviewers find themselves kind of at interesting challenges to come up with descriptive language. The film was very well received at Cannes and the New York Film Festival. The Boston Globe, the film writers for the Boston Globe, named it one of the top 10 films of the year. Frammartino, the director I mentioned, was born in Milan, but his family is from Calabria, a southern region of Italy, the toe, if we're thinking about Italy in spatial terms. And as he describes in an interview, this film was kind of a rediscovery of Calabria for him. The Greek philosopher Pythagoras also lived in what would later become Calabria, in the region when it was part of Magna Graecia, Greater Greece during antiquity. So the Pythagoras connection is important for this film. Pythagoras started a religious sect that believed in reincarnation. So this theme of reincarnation, or at least the natural cycle of life, it was the inspiration for this film. So this is a very unique and very special film, and I want to help set a kind of tone for it. An old goat herd. So the quattro volte, the four times, it also could be translated perhaps more literate as the four realms of life. And the film has, it develops in four parts that are closely related. An old goat herd dies and comes back as a kid, not as a child, but as a baby goat. And this is one of the most dramatic shifts in the film. So we begin with, we have four realms of life. The first is human with the goat herd. The second is animal with the goats. And the next segment has to do with a magnificent, noble evergreen tree. So the sections are connected. And the fourth section, the tree eventually is chopped down and is turned into charcoal. So an ancient process of making charcoal in Calabria also gives a kind of cohesion to the film. So the mineral realm that we see at the beginning, we return to at the end when the tree, after serving certain purposes in the cultural domain, returns to its mineral state. A New York Times reviewer, well, we might say too, we are in the realm of documentary and a kind of nature documentary. And here Anthony made a reference, say, to early cinema. The origins of cinema were largely scientific. The study of the motion of the human body. Early films also, when the camera is static, it's the motion of the body across the frame that carries the narrative along. And so in a way, this is somewhat reminiscent of early cinema, but also when we think of cinema in its entire history, maybe there are only so many moves that can be made. But this film has a distinctively slow pace, but the pace works for the film. Well, here's what the New York Times reviewer has to say, and I'm quoting. An idiosyncratic and amazing new film is so full of surprises, nearly every shot contains a revelation, sneaky or overt, cosmic or mundane, that even to describe it is to risk giving something away. At the same time, the nervous reviewer's convention of posting spoiler alerts has rarely seemed so irrelevant. Would I ruin tomorrow by telling you the sun is going to rise? Will your life be spoiled if I divulge that it will end in your death? End quote. So we are in the realm of a film that is taking us into the connections between the man, the animal, the vegetable, and the mineral realms. It's a picturesque film. Other critics have talked about Frammartino's minimalism as being highly orchestrated. There is no dialogue. There is no soundtrack. There are sounds. The cycles of life are, as I say, are what keep the film connected. I think to approach this film, I think of certain lines of poetry, maybe is the best way to try to evoke a kind of tone or a context. An Italian poet, Andrea Zanzotto, who passed away at 90 years in October, in one of his poems, there's a line that goes, in quel grandore dove tutti I silenzi sono possibili. In that grandeur where all silences are possible. And Zanzotto's poetry explores silences, the microcrystalline syllables of silence, the different kinds of silences. And this is a film that invites us to silence, that explores different silences. And we're also reminded kind of musical training, to understand what is a pianissimo. And one of my high school teachers always, we started from silence. We had to be quiet, we had to be attentive, we had to be quiet, and then we could make a sound. And that was a way to try to understand what pianissimo is. And this film is very much in that kind of a vein. It's full of silences, but it's full of visual, stunning beauty. Also, I would say Yeats's poem, The Lake Isle of Innisfree, comes to mind. I will arise and go now, and go to Innisfree, and a small cabin build there, of clay and wattles made. 9 bean rows will I have there, a hive for the honeybee, and live alone in the bee-loud glade. We could also think of Walt Whitman and one of his lines, I could turn and go and live with animals. So this film takes us into the connections between the 4 realms. And I like to think of that grandeur in which all silences are possible. And at the same time, the sounds of this film is a kind of bee-loud glade. So I hope you enjoy the film.